All right, we got another 3 minutes worth of content out of Generation 5. They released a 3-minute video of what's presumably going to be the very next episode, which I believe comes out in September. And it's going to be like 5 episodes in September, and then it's going to go away for a little bit, and then come like December, October, that kind of time, November-ish, it'll come back for its last few episodes. Presumably that's the case because of the previous leaks that we got before, saying what their timeline is and everything like that, their roadmap, so to speak. But I just want to talk about these 3 minutes here because we had some interesting stuff here. Starting off, I want to talk about Misty's hair because this is finally where we get to see where it's finally changed. We've seen it before in promotional material, like marketing material. We've seen it in Tell Your Tell, I believe. It's been leaked in other things like toys and all this other stuff. Her hair has changed a long time ago, and the show is only just now getting around to doing that. So I'm curious if her hairstyle is actually going to stay the same from, this episode onward to every episode beyond this, or if it's just for this one episode that it's different because they're doing this big cutie bash celebration type deal. But who knows? Maybe it stays the same, maybe it doesn't. I personally think it looks okay. I'm not a huge fan of it though, but whatever. Another thing too is like one of the very first things that happened in this episode is that Zip mentions the crystals again.
A problem with the crystals again? Oh.
She says, is it the crystals again, or something along those lines. And I find it very strange because obviously we don't know what she's talking about because this is out of context. This is 3 minutes of a random episode that's coming out September time, sometime around that time anyway. So what is she talking about? What crystals is she talking about? What's important about them? What's going on with them? What was wrong with them before and what's wrong with them now potentially? Very strange. Then they mention that a storm cloud is there or something like that. So I find that also interesting. It seems like this storm cloud might actually have some other grander, significant purpose, just because it seems like the kind of thing that's like, oh, there's a storm cloud coming, don't worry, it's just rain, and then boom, it starts raining or whatever, but it's actually something bigger and more dangerous or some other wacky situation like that, right? So I definitely expect us to see, that be the setup, and then later on, halfway through this episode, or the majority of the way through the episode, it starts raining, but actually that storm cloud was something else, and now we gotta all be careful. Moving on, we get a little bit of this scene where they're like doing her hair and everything like that. They finally get her hair the way that it is for the episode. And Sunny asks if she's okay, and she mentions, like Opaline and everything like that is back at the castle, and she's probably missing her, and she's gonna formulate a plan to come after them or something like that. I find this interesting because the way that she words it almost seems like that she's never going to go back to that castle, even as like a double agent or anything like that, which we kind of all expected her to not come back as like a double agent or something like that, or if she did, she would be found out in like a day or two or something. So yeah, that's probably what's going to happen here, is that she's not going to be a double agent. At least that seems that seems to be the case based on how she worded everything. Taking a break here to talk about the animation and stuff like that, not really any better than Chapter 4 and before that. Like, it's just pretty much the same. I think we've reached the peak of what this show will offer in terms of animation, lighting, and all this other stuff. I don't think it's particularly anything special or fantastic, anything to write home about. There's some jitterness here and there. There is lighting issues where like light seems to be coming from multiple weird spots, and shadows don't make sense sometimes. It's just a weird thing. Overall, like, they sometimes don't look like they're actually in the environment that they're in, and that's been the case for the series all the way up to this point, so I'm not entirely surprised by that. So moving on to, again, when we cut to Opaline and stuff like that in the castle, we actually get to see the key chest again. This is like a throwaway gag, of course. She's looking for a hairbrush. But that little key chest that Twilight found from the Tree of Harmony a long time ago in Generation 4, it's there. It's still there as it was in Chapter 4 at like the last episode or two or whatever of the previous season. It was there. It was in the background, and some of us saw it and thought, hey, is that going to be something? Is that an Easter egg? I personally thought it might have been an Easter egg, and it's still unclear if it was an Easter egg or not, but I kind of want to talk briefly about what the implications are for if it isn't an Easter egg, if it's actually going to play some kind of role later on in the series, if this isn't going to take place in like the Secrets of Starlight or something like that, right? Maybe Starlight a long time ago, Generation 4, between Generation 4 and Generation 5, maybe she did something and it's all inside that chest, whatever she did. Maybe it's locked in that chest and they need some keys to unlock it again or something like that. Or maybe Twilight did it or something, whatever the case, or maybe it's just an entirely different chest that we've never seen before. Maybe there's lots of these kinds of chests and it's just a normal kind of chest that just happens to exist out there in the universe, and for whatever reason in Generation 4 we only saw one of them. I don't know, but if it is real, what are the keys? I'm not really 100% sure. I have a couple of ideas. One idea is that the keys can be basically anything. As we saw in Generation 4, the keys can literally be anything that will convert themselves into a key whenever they're presented to the chest. Maybe the charms on Misty's bracelet will each be an individual key because it will represent each individual member of the main 6, right? Or the main 5 plus Misty. I don't know if they're going to go by the main 6 now or not. It's kind of confusing there, but to me, it would make sense because the bracelet has some significance behind it, and each charm represents each individual character in that group, right? And so maybe that would work, and each of those is a key for that chest, and you present it to it, and boom, it opens or something. Maybe this will even happen by accident later on in the future or something, who knows? But it is some very loose theory there. You could argue that the bracelet as a whole would just be one key, and that might still be the case, but I do feel like maybe each charm has something to do with it. I don't know. One last thing I want to talk about here is, well, a couple of things. One, I want to talk about how close Misty and Izzy are, because it's weird. It's probably done this way because Izzy was the first one to find Misty when she went looking for them and everything. And so they've had the most time spent together before. So maybe that's why she's closer to Izzy. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because she's a unicorn and maybe she's still a little bit prejudiced or something. I don't know. But that's probably the most likely reason why she's closer to her. And the reason why I say she's closer to Izzy in this is because Misty didn't quite tell Sunny exactly what was bothering her. She made up a story about like Opaline and everything like that, and being like, oh, what is she? I can't imagine what she's doing there, and it's bothering me because maybe she's doing something evil and bad and or whatever. And then later on, she tells Izzy exactly what was actually bothering her. And so it's an interesting thing there where it almost seemed like she didn't trust Sunny enough to tell her, or maybe she wasn't comfortable enough with Sunny yet to tell her that kind of information. And that's pretty much it. The very last thing here is that they kind of confirmed how the cutie marks work a little bit.
Ponies get their cutie marks when they're young, because that's when the magic of their personality and their luminescence starts to shine.
It's not super important because it's not really anything super interesting. It's not as crazy as we might have thought it was going to be. But the interesting thing is that you get them at a young age, and that is confirmed, and that is a very, very normal thing. No one ever gets a cutie mark later on in their life. And so that kind of begs the question, again, that I had before in a previous video, why did no one say anything about Misty not having a cutie mark during that big masquerade ball event? Like, no one pointed it out. No one was like, hey, who's that random unicorn that doesn't have a cutie mark? What's going on there? Like, no one mentioned it, and it's such a weird thing. I don't know. But that's pretty much all I have to say about this 3 minutes here that we got. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think the keys for that chest might be, if it is actually going to be play some significance in the show or something like that. Let me know any other theories you might have or something like that. And yeah, please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and doing all of those wonderful things like that, because when you do wonderful things like that, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, but you also get to become wonderful yourself. And I think we all want that. So do those wonderful things, and until next time, stay wonderful.